Okay, so this is the Excel assignment for Lab 10. So what I'm going to first do is I'm going to read in the data from the data files. I'm going to have 6 data files, 3 conditions, voltage across the capacitor, voltage across the resistor. And I think I'm going to put them all in one tab. So when we first read them in, again, there's probably a way to do this, but I don't know what it is. So we're going to open up 6 spreadsheets, and then we're going to consolidate those into one. So let's go to File, File, Open, Browse. Here's my drive, Lab 10. Now it's looking for Excel files, but if I go to All Files, it'll show me the text files. So we could actually read them all at one time. It'll open up 6 files. So if we click on this one and then just do Shift, hold Shift down, and then click the second one, that'll highlight all 6 of them. And it'll go through each one of these. And I think we can just, let's go to Next. Yeah, Finish. So that's the first one. We can do Finish, the second one, Finish, third one, Finish, fourth, fifth, sixth. Okay, so we're going to consolidate them all into the first one. So we got capacitor run 1, capacitor run 2, capacitor run 3. I think we'll do a capacitor, resistor. So I'm going to take resistor run 1 here. I'm going to highlight both columns. So I'm not going to drag it because there's a lot of data. You know, if we go down here to the bottom, there's 4,000 rows. So I think if I just highlight the 2 rows like that and then do Control C, then I'll come over to capacitor run 1. I'll stick my cursor here and I'll do Control V. Okay, so that's capacitor run 1, capacitor run 2, or resistor. I'm going to close the resistors file because I don't need that anymore. I'll say, don't want to keep anything on clipboard. No. Okay, let's insert a couple of rows here. So we'll highlight the rows, we'll right click, insert. This way I can put some kind of thing here. This will be run 1. And let's put capacitor and resistor like that. Okay. And then we'll have a run 2 here. Run 2. Capacitor. We'll add that in a second. Okay, so let's highlight cell G3. Now we don't want to do run 2 capacitor, so let's go to there. Run 2 capacitor. There it is. Highlight the entire row. Control C. Go back to the first file. Control V. You can't paste here because the copy and paste areas aren't the same size. Let's paste up here. Control V. Yeah, you have to go to the top. And as a consequence, it's not in the right row. So what we'll do is we'll highlight these 2, right click, insert, shift cells down. So now everything looks good. I'm going to copy the word here. Control C for copy, Control V. Okay. Move over here. So we got capacitor. Let's go ahead and put run 2 in before we forget. So run 2 capacitor. Let's close that file. Run 2 capacitor. Okay. Go to run 2 resistor. Highlight the columns. Right click. Well, Control C, or I'm going to do a different way this time. You could right click and do copy. Go back to the original file here. Go all the way up to the top. Control V. highlight the first, these 4 cells, right click, insert, shift cells down, resistor. Go over here, copy the word resistor. Okay, so we got that. Now, run 3. So I won't put run 3 in there because we're going to have to move things down. Okay, so that's, now we need run 3 capacitor. So we'll go, let's close run 2 resistors. We don't have that anymore to confuse us. Run 3 capacitor, highlight the rows, columns, Control C. Go back to the first one here, Control V. Highlight these 4 cells, right click, insert, shift cells down. Let's put run through it, 3 up here, run 3, capacitor. Again, you can just write them in there if you want to. Okay. Let's close that file down. Run 3 capacitor. Then we have run 3 resistor. Highlight the 2 columns. Control C. Go back to the original file. Control V. Or you could right click, paste. Where is it? Paste. Well, let's just do Control V. Control V. Highlight those 4 cells, right click, insert, shift cells down, and resistor. Control C, Control V. Okay, and now we can get rid of that one last file. Now we have all the data in the one tab. And let's go down here and rename this tab. So you go to where it says voltage capacitor run 1, just double click on that and say just data. Push enter. Now all of these might not be completely lined up. What we're going to do is, you notice we go times 0, the voltage is already up to 1.133 volts, and so we're going to delete the data. And remember, it was for run 1, the we had a period of 5 seconds. So what we want to do is highlight all the way down to 5 seconds, which will take a second or so here. Just before 5 seconds. Okay, so let's go up and see what's happening here. So you can see how it's hovering around 0.039, and then right at 4.9 seconds it starts to increase. So that's where we'll start. We'll assume that's time t equals 0 for this case. So we'll highlight all those cells, we'll right click, and we'll delete, and we'll shift the cells up. So you can see we're starting at 4.896 seconds at 0.039 volts, and then it's going to increase. So what we want to do is we want to go two periods. So one period was 5 seconds, 2 periods was 10 seconds. So if we go down this column and go to about 15 seconds, so 10 seconds after this one, approximately. So let's just use the thing on the right here and look for 10 seconds. So you can see how it's 0.049, and at some point you'll see it start to increase. So here we go to 0.3039. So we'll assume that's the rest of it's in the next cycle, which we don't want. So we'll highlight everything. that we have, the extra data we have in that column, which I think I did like 3 or 4 oscillations. So wherever that is. Okay. So we get rid of all that extra stuff. Delete. Shift cells up. Okay, so that's the voltage across the capacitor. So let's plot that to verify that everything's right. Did I just do it at 10 or should I have gone to 15? I think I overdid it. Yeah, I took too much out. Let me undo that. Okay, that was only one period. So I actually want to go to close to 15 instead. That's why it seemed odd. So I'm going to go down to 15. Close to 15. So you can see how it's kind of leveling out here. Okay. Oh, there we go. See how it's going up now. So it was leveling off to like 0.04. So when it just starts to go up again, we'll say that's it. So we'll highlight the rest. Get rid of that stuff. Okay. Right click, delete, shift cells up. Okay, now if we highlight all of these cells, well, actually one easy thing to do, I'm going to show you how to do this so you don't have to drag it so long. You know, if you know the end, and so it's row 2505, so I'm going to write that down. And let's scroll all the way to the top. Our data starts in row 5, but the header is in row 4. So I've written down 2505. I'm going to highlight just a few cells here. Then I'm going to go to Insert, Chart, Scatter, Plot. I'm just going to plot the data points without anything connecting them. So there it is. Looks pretty linear to start off with. I'm going to move this to another tab. So we're going to right click and choose Move Chart to a new sheet. We'll call this Run 1. So there it is. Now, to get all the data, I go to Select Data. I click on Voltage. I choose Edit. And what I do is I'll call the series name here Voltage Capacitor. Okay, and the series, it says 211, but I want to go to 2505. And the same with the Y values, 2505. So that'll get all the data points. I'll say OK. OK. So there you go. So that's what we saw in class. I'll probably change the range down here so it gets spread out a little bit more. So we start at about 5 seconds and then go to about 15 seconds. So I'll probably go from 14 to 16 or something like that. But I want to put on this chart, I want to put both the voltage across the capacitor and the voltage across the resistor together. So to do that, I'm going to need to go back and pick this same set of points, but for the resistor value. So here I am with the resistor. So you can see I went to 4.896 seconds. Let's write that down. 4.896. Okay. So I'll take this and I'll drag it down to 4.896 approximately. I'm going to actually choose it based upon what happens here. So you can see here it's negative up to this point, and then it goes positive. So I'm going to delete all the negative stuff there. So I've highlighted all that stuff. I'll do delete. I'll shift cells up. So now I've got this one. Now it starts to decay. And if I go all the way down to row 2505 that I had earlier, so right here, you can see how it changes from negative to positive again. So I'm going to get rid of all this positive stuff again, downward. All that extra stuff. And then I'll right click, delete, shift cells up. Okay. Now I want to plot these two. So I'll go to the graph. I will click on the graph. Well, I'll say go to design, select data. I'll do add. The series name is voltage resistor. The X values will be, let's go, so again we can go to the top here, choose that. Actually, I think we chose these right here with the header. And so we're going from D4 to E2504 because there was one less. 2504. And we'll go here. So again, we want to go from D4. No, actually, it's not it. This is D. This should be D here. It's column D. D. The Y values are in column E. So we'll put E4 colon $ E $ 2504. So these should match up. This one should say D. This one should say E. I've got a name. I say OK. And something happened here. Oh, the time is messed up. Let's look here. We'll see what we did wrong. The Y values are, maybe I had to get them in the wrong row here. D and E. Okay. D4. Let me go back to the run here. Say okay. Not sure what's going on here. Why is it going to 500? I think it's because of these numbers here. So I really need to get rid of those. I don't know why it's picked those. Oh, it's because it's got this extra thing in here. Let's get rid of that. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. Let's go to edit. Let's go to D5. Because the data starts in 5. So it got the column heading there. I didn't want that. So it goes from 5 to 2504. There we go. Okay, so those are the two. The blue is the voltage across the capacitor. The yellow, orange is across the resistor. Okay, so now we just need to kind of clean this thing up. So we need a title. So we need axis title. We need a chart title. We need a legend. And then we need to change the scale on this here. So I think if I click there, so what I've done is click one of the numbers. Then you right click, choose Format Axis. So you can see the minimum is 0 and the maximum is 16. So I want to start at 4 and go to 14. Or 16, I guess. 16. 2 beyond, or 1 beyond. Push enter. Okay, so it looks like that's good. Next thing, let's go to legend, put at the top. That spreads things out a little bit. Let's close this guy. And we don't need that anymore. So I think we've got everything except the title axes. So the chart, this is going to be run 1 RC circuit. The x-axis is time in seconds. Can't see what I'm doing. There we go, time in seconds. The axis title over here is going to be voltage in volts. The labels are a little small, so we're going to go through and make all these changes. So click on the title here, go to home, pick 18, so that makes that bigger. The legend, let's click on legend, change that to maybe 11. Click on this title, change that to 14. Go down here to time, change that to 14. Click on the axes, change that to 12, and the other axes, change that to 12. And then just click anywhere just to get everything cleaned up. Okay, I think that's good. We could, one thing we could do is kind of relate everything to the beginning, make it t equals 0 where it starts, but I think that's good enough for this time. But you can, you can see what's happening. You can see the general shape. Yeah, we did have this question about doing an analytical solution. So let's do that as well. So we're going to put the analytical solution on. Actually, let's do that at the end. We'll do that as a separate graph. Okay, so that's run 1. What we need to do now is do the same thing for run 2. So again, we're going to get rid of the extra data. Now this has a time period of 5 seconds. Is that right? 10 seconds. So each half part takes 5 seconds, but it's close to 10 seconds. So we'll take this and we'll scroll down as fast as we can till we get to around 10 seconds, a little less than 9 seconds. I mean, a little less than 10 seconds. So I'm going to be patient here. I think what we may do is do both parts here when we get to the final answer and just leave a little bit so we don't have to do this twice. Okay, what we're looking for is this transition where it goes from steady to increasing. So you can see right here is where it starts to get larger. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go over here and also highlight these 2 columns so I can get rid of all of the extra stuff there. So we're going to right click, delete, shift cells up. This one we need to delete one more cell because this is negative. We want to do it when it turns positive, so we're going to do that. Okay, so now they're both good. And we want to go through two periods. So we want to go to 9 point something plus 20 to get 2 full cycles, because a period is, the frequency was 0.1, the period is 10. We've got 2 periods, so that's 20 seconds. So we're going to just go over here and scroll down on the right hand side and do it a lot faster to around 20 seconds right here. And then we'll just do a more fine-tooth comb here thing. So again, you can see here where it changes from 0.034 and then starts increasing. So we want to take this point, start at this point, and then just drag it and delete everything below. And we probably could have done it for the other one as well. Okay, I got a lot of extra stuff here. Yeah, that's why it's good to do this, because we had a whole bunch of junk. Okay, right click, delete, move shift cells up. Oh heck, I missed this row. So I actually got to do that all over again. Let's go all the way down to the bottom again. There's some way of going to the end, but I don't know what it is. Okay, so there we go. Now right click, delete, shift cells up. Okay. So you can see how it's going down, and here it's going, and it switched over. I got rid of that one. Okay, so these are all in good shape. We should have 2 cycles, and the same thing's going to happen here. So while we're here, let's just come over and look. Here we go. See how it's coming down, and then it starts to go up. So I'm going to go from right here, and you can also see over here that I can go ahead and delete all that stuff above it. Again, the purpose here is just to get rid of all this extra data, just have 2 cycles. Okay, and then if we come about right here, where are we? So, did I not? I think I cut off too much earlier. I should have gone longer. I think I've only got 2 periods in here. I should have gone up to 30 something. Okay, sorry. I'm just undoing here because this actually only goes to, we started at 10 all the way to the beginning. So we started at 10. So 1 period is going to be 10, which gets you to 20. So I really need to scroll all the way down to close to 30. Okay, so here we are again. So that's where I need to delete this stuff. And while we're at it, let's see if I can do it over here as well. While I'm deleting junk. Well, let's just do these. Okay, so we're gonna drag down, get rid of all that stuff, that extra stuff. Okay, right click, delete. Okay, so that should give me 2 full periods. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to start at the beginning, get rid of all this stuff here until I'm about 10 seconds, just less than 10 seconds. Look for the same kind of change. Okay, there it happened. Let it go by. Okay, so there we go. So you can see that right here it goes to 0.044 and then starts to increase. So I'm going to get rid of this stuff, and then I'm going to pull it all the way over here to get rid of that stuff as well. So that's the first period that I'm deciding to get rid of. I'm going to pull highlight those two because this has the negative voltage, so I want to delete that. Okay. Then we'll go down to around 30 seconds, which will be 2 periods, so it'll be 29 point something. Okay. So again, you see it's going down, 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 down. Here it starts to increase again. So I want to stop right here. And you can see how it changes sign over there. So let's just get rid of all that stuff below. Now the advantage is this next one, we'll be able to copy the graph and we won't have to redo the whole thing twice. Okay, so we get everything highlighted, delete, shift cells up. Let's get rid of this one row here, this one right here, because it's when it shifts, goes to the opposite way. We'll do the same thing here. We'll get rid of that one. Okay, now we're in good shape. So that should give us 2 full periods. So again, what we'll do is we'll write down this number, 5505. 5505. We'll go all the way to the top. We'll pick a few points in the graph. We'll go to Insert, Charts, Scatter. We'll put this on a different tab. We'll call that Run 2. Push Enter. So there it is. Now we'll get all of the data. So we'll select Data. We'll edit Series 1, which we'll call, what the heck did we call it last time? Well, I'm just going to have to put something in because I can't remember whether it was voltage, resistance, or it's capacitor voltage, I think. Instead of going to 15, we're going to go all the way to 5505. And 5505. Now, if your transition happens slightly different than mine does, use that. Okay, so there it is. Looks exactly the same as run number 1, except the time is spread out. So let's now go ahead and put the data in for the other thing. So we're going to add. The series name will be resistor voltage. Click on this little thing there. We'll go to data. So we're doing this one now. Let's highlight just a few cells. You can actually make the change up here. You can just put them in 5505. Push Enter. Yeah, the problem there is that is not right. We just need to do this one first. Let's push Escape, get out of here, and Escape. Okay, sorry, I made a mistake, but you might make those mistakes too. So let's do it again. Add resistor voltage. So this is the X range. I was doing both of them. That's why I messed up. So we should just do the time first. And again, I can go up here and put 5505 in. 5505. Push Enter. So that's the X values. The Y values are these. And then so I've gotten column K, and I went to 11. But if I just go in and change it to 5505, then everything will be good. So I got resistor voltage from row 5 to row 5505. Column J for the time, column K for the voltage. Say OK. So there we go. Say OK. So it's the rest of it here is just putting the titles in. Let's go back and try to be consistent here. So Voltage capacitor, voltage resistor. What did I use here? I think I did the opposite. Yeah, let's go and fix that. So we'll do edit. So instead of capacitor voltage, it should be voltage capacitor. Just as long as you're consistent, I guess. And I can't remember from one. You might have to use your cursor to get. Can't use your arrow keys, unfortunately. Okay, so that fixed that one. We'll go to resistor, edit, put the cursor in there, use the backspace. So it's voltage resistor, push OK. Okay, so now the names are matching up. Go to the plus sign. We need axis titles, we need chart titles, we need legend. For the legend, we want it at the top. Okay, I think everything's good now. Just need to go and choose the titles. Again, being consistent. So we need to run to RC circuit here. To RC circuit. This title, we said it was voltage volts. Whoops, something happened there. Click on that, double click inside. Did I spell that right? Okay. Down here we have time in seconds. Double click on it. Use backspace to get rid of the old one. Time, seconds. Again, I'm not sure what format I used over here, so let's seconds SEC. So let's do that. Go back and fix that. Okay. Time seconds. Let's see what I did here. Voltage volts. I put a little dash in there. Okay, that's good. Now as far as the font size, again, we should be consistent. So if you click on these and go to home, you'll see what it is, 18. So the title is 18. The legend was 11. The y-axis title was, I think, 14. The x-axis title was 14. The numbers were 12. And then finally, we need to adjust the scale on the x-axis to go from 9 to 31. That's 1 second before we start and 1 second after we start. So you highlight, click on the numbers, right click. Oh, it unhighlighted it. Let's try it again. Click, format axis, go from 9 to, it looks like it's going to, 20, it's about 30. So we go to 31. So our data went from 10 to 30. So I'm going, and one thing I don't like is this 9, 14. Probably the best thing to do is to decide where it starts. How do I do that? How did I do on the last one? Yeah, it did it 4, 6, 8, 10, which is fine. So I could probably, if I went to 8 and 32, it would probably do okay. Yeah, well, not quite. Still breaking it up. It's doing by 5, so I guess if you go over here to units, you say minor. A major is 4. There we go. We could do that, or we could do it every 2. Let's do it every 2. That looks nicer. 8, 10, 12. And you could do the same thing over here. We could do it every 1. So if we click on the x-axis and make the major unit 1 and the minor 0.5, push enter. That looks pretty good. Didn't seem like it did the 0.5 part. I'm not sure why, but that looks pretty good. Okay, let's compare them. Yeah, pretty close to the same, right? Okay, now, you're like, okay, what do I have to go through that all again? Well, no, this is the cool part. So you can click on the title down here, right-click on the title, and it says, what does it say? Move or copy. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a create a copy, and let's put it right. How do we do it? Before sheet. Let's put it before the data sheet. So we got run 1, run 2, run 2 copy. So what we'll do is we'll double click on that and make that run 3. So that's our new graph. But we want the data that's in columns M, N, P, and Q. So I'm going to write that down. M, N, P, Q. So let's go back to run 3 graph. If you click on the graph, go to design, select data. The voltage is data is in M and N, so we go to edit. And what we do is we go down here and change G to M. And we change H to N. And we say OK. And that's it. Now I've got run 3 data. Well, run 3 data. It says run 2 here. We got to just change. This is run 3 tab. Likewise for the voltage, we go edit. The voltage for the resistor is in what the heck was it in? It was in, well, we can tell it was in J and K, and we want it to go into, let's cancel that for a second. I wrote this down as P and Q. It didn't look like a P when I see what I did. P and Q. Okay, so let's go back to the graph. So we're going to do select data, voltage, resistance, edit. So the J becomes P. P, and K becomes Q. And you've got to put your cursor there. You can't use your arrow keys or it'll get all screwed up. So if you found that out, use the undo command until you get back to where you want to do. Okay, so that's okay. So now everything is for run 3, and everything's good except I need to change the title. So this run 2 becomes run 3. What happened here? Run 2 becomes a run 3. Push enter. Oh, that was a return. I just need to click somewhere else. Okay, there we go. So you see run 2 is there, run 3 is there. They're pretty much identical, and that's because, you know, run 2 we changed the time constant by increasing the resistance by a factor of 2. In run 3 we changed the time constant by increasing the capacitance by a factor of 2, which both increased the time constant by a factor of 2. So they all look very similar. This one's different because the time is half, things happen in half the time than this one, and then these two look almost identical due to different reasons, resistance versus capacitance. So that is it almost. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a theoretical versus actual calculation. We're only going to do it for one of them. We're not going to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the data here for run 1 for capacitance. So we'll just do it for capacitance. We'll do Control C. We'll add another sheet. We'll do Control V. So now this is going to be theory. Now, what is the theory? What is the numbers I need to put in here? Well, we're going to be calculating voltage. Now, the equation, let me explain what we're going to do, because we can't start at t. T is not at 0, so we're going to have to offset the time by this amount. Also, the voltage is not exactly 0. So V0 is 0.039. But we could put in 0 just to make it simpler. So, we're going to use that equation. Well, I'll just write it out. So we're going to have the voltage 5 volts, because that's what we input, times 1 minus E to the 1 divided by RC, which in this case, the time constant was 0.47. So that's 1 over the time constant times the time. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the time and we're going to subtract. So we're going to take the time here and we're going to subtract that time, but we're going to push F4. So it's the second time stays the same. And that way we'll get this relative to time being, initially will happen here at that time. And I think that's it. I think we need one more parenthesis. Another one, actually. 3. So we got this one, which offsets the time to get this calculation right. This second parenthesis is for the exponential. And then the third parenthesis is to multiply by 5. So I'm going to push enter. We should get 0 here. But you see, if I copy this, I'll start to get an increase in voltage as a function of time. Now, why is that negative? Oh, it's negative. Need to put a negative exponent in there. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so that's the theory. That's assuming we start at 0 volts. So what we could do, let's add 0.039 volts to that. And then we'll copy that over. So that moves that offsets everything by 0.39 volts. So that gets a little closer. Okay, I think that's good enough. So let's copy this equation all the way down to the point where we go through the first part of the cycle. We'll just do the first part of the cycle. So that's when the voltage is still increasing. So that is we're getting there. Oh, something's happening here. We went by it, didn't we? Should have been around 5 seconds. Or was it 2.5 seconds? Oh no, well, yeah. It's a default time. So you can see how it's leveling off here to 4.8 something. So we're going to wait till we start to see it come back down again, which is happening about right now. Okay, so you can see how it's going down. So what we'll do is we'll get rid of all that extra data. And what we could do there, we could do the exponential decay part of the cycle, but I just wanted to do one cycle, one comparison between theory, and if you are interested, you could do the other ones. But okay, so we're going to delete all that extra stuff. So that is shift the cells up. So that is the theoretical versus the actual for the initial first part of the cycle. Now if we highlight all this data and we'll plot it. So I've highlighted everything. So this is the time. These are the two voltages. We're going to insert chart. And in this case, I'm going to, instead of creating a new tab to have the graph, and I'm just going to leave the graph in the tab. Now the question is, how do I get this to higher? So if you do Control X, that'll delete it. And hopefully if I come up here to the top and do Control V, it'll show up. Hey, there it is. Okay, that just gets it up near the top. And then you grab the corner to make it a little bit bigger. Now, what I want to do is do the normal things that we do. We need the legend to be at the top. We need axis titles, chart title, grid lines. Okay, that's good. So this title will be theory versus actual. The series, we've got to go in and fix those in a second. Let's do that next. So to do that, what you would do is you would go to Design, select Data. Series 1 will say Edit, and we'll give it a name. So that was voltage. Which one is that? That's the first one. That's the actual. Okay. And the second one is, go to Edit, Voltage Theory. So now say that's okay. So now we've got names that make sense here. Voltage Actual, Voltage Theory. Click on the axis title. Make that. And use the up arrow key when you've got this vertically oriented thing. So it'll be voltage dash volts. Down here we'll have time, seconds. Get rid of that. And let's go from 4 to 8 seconds. So to do that, you'll click on the x-axis, right click, click on the axis. There we go. Right click, format axis. Go from 4 to 8. Major units of 1, minor of 0.2. That sounds pretty good. Okay, get rid of that little thing on the side. So there you go. Anything else we need to do? Just need to change the size. So this one was 18. So click on the title. Pick 18. I think this one's 11. The axis titles here were 14. And the axis numbers were 12. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Voltage, time. So you can see it's pretty close comparing theory versus actual. So that is it. So again, kind of review what we did is we weeded out a lot of the extra data so that we had 2 full cycles of both the capacitor and the resistor. We did that for all 3 runs. We showed that increasing the resistance by a factor of 2 doubled the time constant. Taking the resistor back to its initial value and doubling the capacitance, we got the same thing. Run 2 and 3 are pretty close to the same. You can kind of go between. You see there's a slight movement. And that was due to the capacitance being doubled. And then we decided to compare theory to actual by putting the equation in V times 1 minus e to the minus 1 over RCT, where I offset the time, and I added a little bit of an offset to the voltage. And that's it. So turn that in.